Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell it. Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell it. Okay, firstly, I gotta address apologetics. It doesn't make sense.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Main Character Podcast, level 25. Made possible by the Cult of Con, that's you guys. Thank you for being here. I am Con Man. How we all doing today? We're about to have a good time. We got a few things to talk about. A couple little things. I had to take notes, obviously. Because you guys know me, I can never stay on track if I don't have notes, so. What's up, chat? How we doing, everybody? Hey, check this out, guys. Check it out. Boom. Chat. How we doing? Little Seasonist, Cage Fighter, Sandra Moore, Wendy, Katie C. What's happening, folks? Welcome in. Good to have you guys here. Yeah, we got a new chat window. So, as we address the chat, I'll pull up the window so that everybody watching the video can see what all of you beautiful people are saying about all this crazy stuff that we're going to be talking about on here. Always talking about something crazy, you know how it is. All right, guys, crazy stuff. A couple things, right? I just want to start out by saying that we have hit a major milestone here. And by that, I mean, we've finally gotten past the strike, right? I guess it's not a strike. It's the copyright warning, so to speak. Because obviously, I got in trouble during episode 11, or level 11, whatever you want to call it. And so I got a warning for 90 days. That warning has expired. And during the time that we were being punished, what's up, MK Ryan? Welcome in, my friend. During the time that we were being punished for breaking the speech rules, we did hit our milestone for watch time hours, and we hit our 500 subscriber mark. Obviously, we just got a couple of new subscribers from today, and we'll touch on that in just a second. But pretty exciting. We do get to apply for partner status now, which is huge for the channel. It's the next step towards me becoming an actual content creator. I'm definitely treading the space in between. I'll explain that in a second. So earlier today, for those of you guys who were following along, Paul hosted a little conference, I guess you could say. A bunch of creators came in to share their, 2 cents about, cosmology and some experiments that took place recently. And I was really bummed because I had to work today and I wasn't going to be able to participate. But Paul sent me the link and I had downloaded Zoom on my phone while I was at work. So I joined in. I got to speak for a little bit. It was so awkward. I was taking out the trash at work, calling in on my headphones. You do what you can, right? I'm doing my best. It was a good time. It was a good time. I shared my opinion about a couple of things about cosmology, and I'd love to do a full episode about it. I feel like there's so much more to say than what you can say in 5 or 10 minutes, and honestly, I'm a little overwhelmed to be sharing the platform with people like Paul and JT and Vinny B and everybody who came out is an incredible researcher. These guys have been at it way longer than I have. And so it's oh man, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm refuting them. When guys are talking about, Vinny was saying he believes the earth is a square, Hijacker was even saying that. These guys are way above me on their research and dedication. So if I say something crazy, don't take what I say to heart. I'm not the teacher, okay? I'm not the leader. Here's how I would describe it. I heard Paul one time say, there are channels that exist in this field of research and stuff, and they're not serious channels. They're conspiratainment. And I'm not insulting myself or any of us in any way. I just think this is conspiratainment, guys. Step aside, Alex Jones. There's a new host of conspiratainment, entertainment, conspiracy. The cult of conspiratainment, It's like that, right? It's like that. For me, I'm having a good time. I hope you guys are having a good time. That's what we're here to do. Obviously, we got more people popping into the chat. If you are just now getting in, guys, welcome back to the Main Character Podcast. Level 25, made possible by the Cult of Con. What's up, chat? How we doing over here, guys? We got Jesse. Welcome in, Jesse. Cage Fighter, I don't know if I saw you yet. welcome in. Stephen Morris, my friend. Dojo in the house. Good to see you, Dojo. Welcome in. So we're going to get down to some business here. We got a few things to talk about. I'm not going to get into the cosmology thing today because I'm already wiped out on that. I compared the Earth to droplets of water and bubbles and stuff, and I was like, that needs to be like a video essay or something. I got to refine that. I feel like that was a pretty good angle I was taking earlier. So if you guys haven't gotten a chance, go over to Paul's channel and check out his stream for today. It was a truther therapy session featuring a bunch of truthers, and it was really cool just to be able to be there with everybody. And like I said, it brought a few new subscribers over to the channel. So if you're new here, welcome aboard. We are the craziest conspiracy cult on YouTube. We are the craziest conspiracy cult in the world. Like just waiting on that big old mothership or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, go ahead over there to Paul's channel, Understanding Conspiracy, and check out that cast for today, that truther therapy session. I think it was like 73. Really awesome stuff. I do want to take a second to shout out to Stephen Gower. I don't know how you say it, but my friend, the hat has shipped. I shipped it out yesterday. We got it to the UPS store before the truck left, so I'll send you an email, man, with the tracking number if you want to keep track. They said 4 to 5 business days from here to there. Pretty cool that they can do that. What's up, Pepe Sylvia? Welcome in. So anyway, with that being said, I got the opportunity to share my 2 cents, and it was sounded like I was connected via dial-up. It's really funny. Don't judge me. I went back and listened to it, and I thought it was pretty funny. There's a weird guy calling through the freaking ether. It's like, imagine calling the president from the moon. It was basically that kind of quality. All right, guys. Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about today. I'm trying to maybe kind of split it up into 2 different things. So we'll start with the first thing, which is the whole point of today's SHILLS episode or whatever. So as you guys know, since the topic of cosmology and stuff came on, and I heard Paul talking to Vinny about, everyone gets accused of being a shill if you do anything at all, if you even question the questioning, right? There's the narrative. You question the narrative, but if you question the question of the narrative, now you're a shill. So I want to talk a little bit about that phenomenon, and I want to talk about some stuff that we have to just come to terms with as truthers, which is that one of the things being that there are shills everywhere. And what does that even really mean? And we'll talk about that in a second. What's up, Doctor Who? Welcome in, my friend. Good to see you. Oh, man. Chat is popping tonight, guys. Awesome. It's good to see you guys. Blow it up. Smash that like button. All that good stuff. It's good to have you guys. What's up, Adrienne? Welcome in. So I'm going to just go right into it. You guys know last, what was it, Friday? I came out with a random stream, something I don't normally do, but it was because there was pressing matters and I had to get out there and say my piece. So as you guys know, those of you guys who saw the Friday random stream, the drone update, go ahead and check it out if you haven't. Most of my videos are on the live tab, but I do my little weekly stuff, fitness and stuff. So feel free to check those out too if you're not doing anything. But as far as the live stuff goes, I popped in last Friday to talk about the drone situation and things regarding the Cybertruck bomb and some other weird things. Now, there were some revelations. Some people called out Sean Ryan. They said Sean Ryan is, he's been tricked by Sam Shoemate and the whole email, and that there was everybody was a bit confused or a bit skeptical, which is reasonable and totally understandable. And some people pointed out some stuff I thought was really great. Maybe it's worth just going down the route of looking at it. I wasn't going to do anything, but let's go ahead and let's look at some stuff here. So if we go to Sean Ryan show, and I don't want to get a copyright thing, but we will just pop up one of his most recent videos because he has oh shoot, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it without it here. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what we're talking about. See this intro right here. Somebody pointed out the fact that the color scheme is this black, white, and red, and here we have this triangle and his eye and stuff. And it's one eye, and I thought that was really funny. I totally get where people are coming from, right? People have been truthers forever. This is classic iconography right here, the triangle with the one eye. It's actually really funny. But so that's the reason why I made the thumbnail what it is for the show. In case you guys are just now popping in, I'm not actually a paid shill. but I'm just kind of emulating it for fun, all right? Just for those of you guys who are not sure how much of this is a joke. Yeah, so we got Wendy's right. She's pointing out black goo. We got the black goo. We got the one eye. We got the spooky intro song. We got, it turns from, isn't it interesting too? Because it's like there's the inverted triangle here. It just kind of passed by. And then there's the upside, the right side up. And then also the flag is inside the point of the triangle. There's just so many things. Look at this vector symbology right here, this V. That's his Vigilance Elite logo for his brand and company. Okay. So here's the thing. So I'm not trying to say that I think that Sean Ryan is a paid shill, but let me just tell you guys a little bit about how this works. I'm sure you guys are well educated on this, but for those of you guys who are like new to this stuff or just kind of getting on board with this story, this guy Sean Ryan came out of nowhere like 3 years ago, and I know that YouTube has this like. You can definitely become successful on here. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is the least marketable channel, and we're like almost a YouTube partner. So we're getting something done. We're doing something right. But this guy rose to maximum influence and power within the last like 4 or 5 years. And the timing is important. Okay, we're going through what many would describe as soft disclosure. And soft disclosure is like, as you would imagine, the powers that be have a certain amount of information that they're privy to that the rest of us are not. And they want us to know, but they don't want it to be like, here, we're telling you everything that we've done wrong and everything we've withheld from you. They kind of make it look like we figured it out for ourselves. And part of the way they do that is they have guys like Sean Ryan who are platformers for other content. So for instance, Sean Ryan's had a bunch of weirdos on there that are like seen a black triangle abducting people out of the Philippines or whatever, wherever that was. I've watched a lot of his podcasts, and I really enjoy his content, don't get me wrong. But, like, let's be honest, he was a high-level military operator, a Navy SEAL, and then after that, he was a CIA contractor. We have to be, like, honest with ourselves about it. Like, there's potential that, like, he is a CIA spook, you know what I mean? That's totally possible. Like, I think we need to be open to that. But we also need to consider the fact that he's, like, a contractor, Like, a lot of guys are... they get out of the military, they have expertise, it's valuable expertise. They can make a lot of money doing stuff like guarding random places or teaching people how to guard places. There are jobs these guys can get that doesn't make them like an agent of the government working to destroy us. And we have to remember, the CIA is not supposed to be like a domestic operation. The FBI has kind of got the jurisdiction on, homeland affairs. So of course, we know that the CIA definitely crosses the line and does all kinds of illicit things and has all throughout history, which is why I'm not advocating for the legitimacy of the CIA. I'm simply saying that it's tough how big of a gray area there really is about all this stuff. Now, do I think that Sean Ryan is controlled opposition? Yeah, I totally agree with what Wendy's saying. She's like, is he controlled op? Yeah, of course. I totally think he is. But then there comes a point where he gets under attack from everybody, right? And then it proves in the long run that the email and everything that they shared was actually correct. So my take was correct to a point that I was like, guys, this is they're disclosing information. There's a story here for sure. Now, I don't have all the answers, obviously. I'm just spitballing all the time. But this instance regarding Sean Ryan, they were telling the truth, the true potentially lie. That's all I'm saying. Sean Ryan's credibility is not shot. Is he potentially still an asset of the deep state? Of course. There's a great possibility of that because it's like, what's the difference? Like, we're Navy SEAL, man, that is high level operation. And since we're talking about Navy SEALs, you guys ever heard of what's it called? Mr. Ballin. You guys ever heard of Mr. Ballin? And it's funny enough, Mr. Ballin actually has an episode on Sean Ryan because, as you guys may know, Mr. Ballin got basically heat because he was a Navy SEAL who kind of, I guess you could say, wasn't the highest level performer. It's none of my business to describe who or how well these people do as a Navy SEAL because I'm, of course, not a Navy SEAL myself. But I do think it's important that we discuss the fact that just like Sean Ryan, Mr. Ballin came out of nowhere really recently. And this is a guy who now has 10 million subscribers, nearly 10 million subscribers. This is like, 5 years in the making? And I'm not trying to take away from his work or from the fact that it's a really entertaining channel that has increasingly gotten more and more commercialized and like YouTuber-y, you know what I mean? It's kind of lost its flair. I think that what everybody liked about Mr. Ballin was this idea that it was like you're kind of talking to this guy at the bar. Like it felt really casual, really authentic. You know, kind of like what we're doing here. Like we're just hanging out. It's not that weird. So somehow this disconnect happens at some point. Usually money is involved. But Mr. Ballin's channel is really big, and you know what Mr. Ballin has done the entire time is tell spooky stories about people disappearing in the woods, weird cryptids, weird aliens, and basically from the position of like, oh, this guy's a Navy SEAL, he's a combat veteran. He's like a wounded combat veteran. So he has some like legitimacy. So when he tells spooky stories, it almost gives credibility to the spooky stories. And that's exactly where I'm coming from with this, right? Mr. Ballin, Sean Ryan, people like this have only risen to prominence within the last few years. And you could argue, well, you know, the culture's been shifting in the last couple decades. And maybe that's true. Maybe in the last 10 years, people got sick of all the wokeism and everything that happened over the last 10 or 12 years or whatever it's been. But I don't think that's a really good excuse for it, because you see this stuff kind of come in generations, and this kind of takes me to where we're going today with this thing where, there's people who kind of fill a generation of influence, whether they're a mainstream creator, a movie star, a TV star, or even just like an alternative truther. I remember when I was on with Paul and Hijacker a couple episodes ago, and Hijacker was talking about how he sees guys come and go all the time, and he's been in the truther game for a long time. And that made me think about this channel that I used to watch that's basically not around anymore, called Hoaxbusters. And this is, probably 10 years ago. They were one of the first channels I ever saw to kind of break the barrier and start talking about, tiny hat people and Talmud stuff, and that's just the stuff that only is just now starting to become popular. Like I'm sure you guys noticed that like conspiracy theories are becoming more and more mainstream, like people looking at alternative realities and things. That's become very popular in the modern age. People are beginning to ask questions. It's both a good thing and a bad thing, because now the cat's out of the bag and like everybody's just proliferating all kinds of weird ideas. But to each their own, I guess. It's a weird time. It's a time of awakening, and I feel like it was predicted, and that's part of why you have characters like Sean Ryan, Mr. Ballin, etc. And I'm sure there's more we could come up if I actually spent some time doing research. There's a lot of these characters who kind of rose to prominence artificially. In fact, I was listening to Main Character podcast myself recently because I was brainstorming where I'm going to make some clips and cut some vids for the actual channel of me talking on Main Character but not live, because it seems like people don't find the podcasts unless they know they exist. People kind of just land on the video section and like, where's all the political stuff? There's only food on here. So I was cutting up some videos, or working on cutting up some videos, listening to some of my older casts, and I wish I had been more deliberate in my language at the time, but I was talking about characters like, and I brought up Hawk Tuah Girl, and this was before the whole NFT scam, and I had explained that characters like Hawk Tuah are put out for everybody to be influenced by, and they're artificially created. It's like controlled opposition. They're not real. So when they gave that girl that interview opportunity, they knew that they were going to proliferate the video. Like she's saying something degenerate, and it's like not good. Anyway, this is part of the discussion. But the point I'm trying to make is, if I had been more clear, I could have said that girl is going to have one of the biggest podcasts very soon, and then she's going to do some kind of an NFT scam. And I had been saying this to people that I know in person, and they could attest to it, that I was like calling out what was going to happen with her because it was so obviously fake and planted. And so I've learned to be able to detect this. Like, people don't usually have overnight success. If you've ever seen, like, Oliver Anthony and his whole, like, rich men north of Richmond, and everyone was touched to their heart, and I've been spending all night in a dog down day when I faked no now. Like, that song, and that guy, he's like singing on a microphone in his backyard, and it's just so organic, so natural. And then, like, every conservative creator shares it all at once in the same week, and they're like, this Oliver Anthony represents the spirit of America. And then they sell like 1 million albums to boomers, and they just cash out. Like, this kind of crap happens all the time. I watch it all the time. And so I know what a shill is. I see it. From Hawk Tuah Girl to Oliver Anthony and his fake MAGA, this fake, traditional resurgence, controlled opposition that's going on. I've got nothing against him as a person, but it's not real. We're being fed things. We're being fed, like, it's the same thing. I love Sean Ryan's show. I watched the show. Like, Katie was like, I love Oliver. I don't dislike the guy personally, but it's a business. It's a business to make money off of us. And where do people spend their money? Your money's where your mouth is. Your money's where your heart is. And people, they get touched in this. They're under duress. Our country's under attack. Our values are eroding. Here's a guy struggling, but he has great production quality, and here it is, and it's a great touching song about how the rich men rob us. Just exactly what we need. And who cashes out? The industry. It's the same reason, like if you look at Christian music. Christian music is full of shills. Almost every single major Christian artist is a shill. And what makes them a shill? It's not that they hate God. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't really love Jesus. Maybe they got weird, messed up doctrines. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about this is a world in desperate need of Jesus, and there are record companies that know it, and they sell it. And that's what the whole Christian music industry is. It's why those songs and artists, it's always so tacky and corny. And it's because I've learned this myself as being a struggling musician trying to make it in my rock band and with hip hop and with various things throughout the years. You meet people in the industry who they were never good enough to make it in the mainstream, and so they pretend to go Christian. They're like, oh, this is my Christian rock band. And it's like, are you a Christian rock band because you love Jesus? Or are you a Christian rock band because it's easier to get paid? It's easier to get shows. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying this is about people personally, but this is, I think, where we get caught up in all this, because people want to accuse people of being shills and think it's as simple as that they're evil and they work for the enemy. Like, compartmentalization is enormous. Think about the fact that there are so many people in the military whose job it is to just drive pallets of crap from one end of a warehouse to another, and they don't know that they're moving weapons of mass destruction around. It's on a need-to-know basis, and that's kind of how it is with these artists. They want to make it so bad. They work their way into the industry. They start getting opportunities. They get money. They can have a house. They can have a family, and they get to play music. They get to do what they love, and so they kind of turn a blind eye. What are you supposed to do? I can't micromanage the record company. I don't care what they charge the album. People are paying because they want to support. You can do all kinds of mental gymnastics to be a shill and not even know you're doing it. Perhaps I'm a shill, and I don't even know it. So all I'm getting at is that people like Sean Ryan could very well be a total in-on-it operative of the CIA, the deep state, whatever. They're feeding us false information because they want to control our mind. They're trying to ruin us. They're trying to get us to make bad decisions, waste our money, don't pay taxes, end up in prison, whatever, man. But at the end of the day, it's not always so cut and dry. I think it's very possible that people like, what were we looking at? Mr. Ballin, Sean Ryan, any of these guys could be a shill, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything they say is wrong. One of the best ways they sell controlled opposition in the world is by tricking everybody into thinking that what they're saying is true, because they sell you with 70, 80% truth, right? Think about it like that. Alex Jones was one of the cutting edge truthers for a long time, even though he was controlled opposition. And the reason they were able to sell him is because he would have real stories, real scoops. I was talking to my brother about this regarding the Q thing. Within the last 8 years, Q got really big. A lot of people were really, slowly indoctrinated into believing the conspiracies. And then Joe Biden, and there was only one cannon, and it fired 3 shots, and everyone was like, "Whoa, there's a conspiracy!" There's always 17 seconds after the truck pulls up, and then it blows up in front of the thing. You can see the connections if you follow it, and that's why it's so cultic and dangerous, because all these people were desperate for something, and they gave them something. That's what Trump is in a nutshell. They knew that traditionalism was in its last breath, that all these people had ran everything ragged, taken care of themselves, and I'm not talking about you guys. Remember, when I make blanket statements, I'm only talking about the guilty parties, but you guys ever heard of these reverse mortgages? Yes, the bank is evil for inventing it, but think about how evil the people are that did it. The people that well, no use waiting till I die. I'm going to spend my kids' inheritance on myself now by reverse mortgaging my house, borrowing against the house, taking that money and going on vacation, getting a boat, getting a hot rod. Think about how many people did that. You guys are shills. You people that didn't leave an inheritance for your children and your children's children like the Lord announced that you're supposed to do. The hard thing is that you can be an agent of the enemy and not even realize it. Because that's really what a shill is. It's someone who is pretending like they are operating under one set of rules and beliefs, but in reality, they're doing something entirely different. So, Pepe Sylvia says that Q was the boomer pacification program. Here, let's pop up chat. We haven't looked at chat in a minute. Let's scroll back here a second, see what people are saying. Oy vey. Doctor Who says, by their fruit, and Satan will deceive the nations. Amen, brother. They are definitely out here. I see tons of truthers being used as agents of the enemy in order to trick us into believing things. As soon as we decide we no longer believe the mainstream narrative, you're like going out into the woods on your own without a flashlight at night. You are in a dangerous place. You are susceptible to being tricked. And I would not even begin to doubt that the enemy has that sort of thing figured out, right? That's what these deep cover agents, these deep water individuals, these covert operatives, these shills, they are there to take people with a fresh, open mind and fill it with junk. That's what Q is. It's an example of that crazy junk, that brain-melting garbage that they inserted into the soft palates of people's newly awakened brains. Jesse says, guiding the waking up sheep into certain pens can't be all the way awake. 100%. There's almost no better way to describe that. I really love the way you put that, Jesse. Wendy said, I seriously did everything I could to avoid that song and the videos. Oh, yeah, the Oliver Anthony. Well, it's like when I saw it happening, I knew it. It happened overnight. I saw the video with 1,200 views on it. I'm not even joking. I was the first person to see it, basically. And it was somebody huge sharing it. It was like Benny Johnson, like, this is the thing we need. And all conservatives, all the influencers, all in lockstep brought out their new product, you know. And I guarantee you, if people think about it, because this is where I learned this. I was lamenting to my brother earlier. This is a grift. I'm not doing it, but the internet is a grift. Social media is a grift. All these people, they'll have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and they'll make it look like they're not doing very well. And I'm not talking about like Paul and the other guys in our community. We're all like struggling artists out here. I'm talking about the big picture, like 10 million subs. Like that guy is making absurd amounts of money. It's like I was joking about it back in like 2012. We used to be pretty popular on the internet. I was like, if only I knew then, I could have been shilling for the last 15 years. I could be rich right now. I could be like basically Mr. Beast, you know? And I was mostly joking, obviously. But the point is that when you start looking at volume, that's one thing I appreciate about our little community here is that I recognize you. We know each other to a point. When you get to where you're like a huge mega creator, it just becomes about numbers, and people like they take away humanity, and then it makes you no different than the system. Because what it's done is it's taken away our humanity. It's turned everybody into a number. That's why our economy is all bad. It's why corporations make so much money. It's why like the United Healthcare CEO pays himself $50 million a year and people can't even afford food. You see what I mean? There's a disconnect, and it's because once you decide you're too important for everybody and everybody's just a number in your thing, then you become a shill. That's what it means to be a shill. You're a shill for Satan, who doesn't see the individual value of humanity. Think about that. Even Jesus says, you're either with me or you're against me, so it's easy to become a shill for Satan without even realizing it. Crazy food for thought. But the point I'm trying to make is simply that we have a responsibility for what we do with our lives and how we live. We try to be the best people we can be. And if we were doing that collectively the whole time, we wouldn't have all these problems. But we have a lot of bad people and a lot of bad juju going on, a lot of problems, a lot of misconceptions about how we should live our lives, and a lot of that is brought to us by individuals like this. You know, I can't imagine what it must have been like to have your money stolen in an NFT scam because you thought that Haktua Girl was a good influence on financial opportunities. And for a minute there, it was pumping because it's not real, right? That's the other thing. I've been calling cryptocurrency a scam the entire time, and I'm going to die calling cryptocurrency a scam because all it is fiat currency on steroids. At least at the end of the day, if you have a drawer full of $100 bills or whatever, you have something to hold on to that's like money. Cryptocurrency is absolutely a figment of your imagination. And the moment they decide to pull the plug on you, you don't have access to it anymore. So that's about it. I'm not going to go on a giant crypto rant, but so many shills. They're bought and paid for too. Cage Finders, right? Yeah, the Christian artists. Country music, oh yeah, that's even some of the worst too, right? Country music these days has just gotten even worse. And what's funny is they're actually starting to have like a resurgence of like 80s and 90s style country artists who are coming back, because it's not that they have changed as a demographic, but they've changed in the sense that there are a lot of people who are like, I miss the old country, I miss the way things used to be, and so they'll have artists that they bring out that sound like the old days, so you'll pay for it, but it's just the same thing. It never ends, right? D-Ball205 says, oh shoot, we just jumped way up ahead. I didn't realize how much was going on here. It says Q, DJT is controlled by. Yep. Tiny Hat Trump, says Wendy. Yep. Q was the boomer pacification program. And I said that before, but it's worth reading out again. Pepe, that was a good one. Wendy says she's the cat driving in that meme of cat driving and playing metal music and the dog's making a crazy face. You keep using that word. I don't think you think it means what you think. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what you're talking about, Dr. Who. I probably am using words wrong. I have like a larger vocabulary than my brain. I'm not that smart. I didn't go to college, luckily. I was just joking about that earlier. I have no student loan debt. I got to be glad about that. Jeffrey says they turned us all into number 2. Good to see you, Jeffrey. Welcome in. Wendy says, to be fair, I like the music from the 50s too. There's some bops. Yeah, you know, the world was simpler. I feel like the farther back you go, the simpler it was, right? I just wanted to take some time and hang out with you guys and chat because when I was out here on Friday, I just ranted into the wind and then logged off. I like showed up and I was like, this is what I think about, and those are gravitic drones and they're from New Schwabenland. And I just logged out. I got more for you guys today. If you thought you heard some unhinged stuff, I got more coming up here. I'm just trying to make sure that we get through everything for the first half here, and then I got some good stuff I'm going to share with you guys. Cage Rider, oh damn, I bought you a Bitcoin. Now, in that case, now maybe I'll open up a crypto wallet just to see if it works. I mean, Adrian says, I remember thinking the music industry and sports were for us. When I was younger, I believed in them. Right, I know. It makes it look like these are actual pathways for your future. So you support it. You're like, he's the best champion. You know, I'm going to buy all his jerseys and then one day I'll be the champion. And it's like very, very few people are given that opportunity. I think there's more to it than that even. I think that when you're born, you know, they take your blood and they test your DNA right away. And you probably get assigned a social security number here in the States that has something to do with your DNA. And that might have something to do with your job opportunities and your loan interest rates and your, you know, I'm not joking. You think I'm crazy, but dude, more sophisticated systems are already operational in the open. Crypto, put your value in the tomb, says Doctor Who. That's a good one. MK Ryan says, I have to admit I like the first Sturgill Simpson album quite a bit. Ezra says, Trump talking like we'll have to move over to digital currency, not sounding good. Yeah, and everybody believed he was going to be the president that restored the gold standard, you know, because he had a golden toilet. He was shitting on gold for 40 years, so. What's up, Pam? Welcome in. Good to see you. I don't know if I said hi to you yet, Ezra. Good to see you as well. It's been a minute. Good to have you back. I'm trying not to slide past all these chats. What's up, Stephen Morris? I don't even know if I said hi to you, my friend. Welcome in. Hello, I was referring to Princess Bride. Inconceivable for your use of shill. Yeah, there's some words that just they stick. Shill is one of those ones. I used it as a clickbait. Look at how many people are here. They see the word shill and then I have a triangle on my eye for the thumbnail. That's it. That's it. It's over. What's up, Rev? Welcome in, my dude. He says, so glad you're live, brother. Needed to hear something good today. Well, dude, I'm glad you're here. We're just kicking it, taking it easy, kind of that midweek recharge. We got a couple days left before the weekend to try to grind it out. Yeah, it was kind of weird popping into, it's like I'm fighting really hard to get to the other side. I'm like calling into podcasts while I'm at work, taking out the trash. It's been such a weird day today. All right, looks like we're pretty much caught up, guys. It's good to have you here, Rev. We're going to kind of move on to the next thing, guys. I got something else that we're going to talk about. Let me check my notes here. I actually have notes this time. Only when there's stuff that's important. Oh, okay. I'm ready for the next thing. We're ready to switch gears and talk some crazy stuff. So if you're just now getting here, welcome to the Main Character Podcast, level 25, made possible by the Cult of Con. I am Con Man. Thank you for being here, and we are about to talk about some wild and kooky stuff. So if you can't handle it, I guess now is when you'll close down the video, but don't say I didn't warn you, okay? Here we go. So for those of you guys who are followers of this kind of whatever you want to call it, the cutting edge truth movement, the MK, the little seasoned people, which I really truly believe are it's the Christian conspiracy theorists, or at least people who are like on the absolute most open-minded edge about all this stuff. Because like, I know that in the history of conspiracy research, like, the vessel of Christianity has been used a lot for evil, and so a lot of people could see, like, I see a lot of people who reject Christ and stuff on the basis of that. Totally understand where you're coming from. I don't agree. I think people are responsible for the things that people do. But again, all I'm saying is that the Christian perspective is the true perspective. I'm not really going to argue with anyone about it. And so that is the cutting edge. Like, if you want to know what's really going on in the world, the Lord is the vessel for the truth revelation. You'll see through the work of Christ, great things will be illuminated for you. Anyway, with that being said, we're going to talk about some crazy stuff. So earlier this week, I guess it was this week, maybe last week. It's hard to tell what week it even is anymore. Paul had conversation on his show with a gal by the name of Nicolette, and I think I've subscribed to her channel. I must be, but I'm not sure. It's Biblically Based is the name of her channel. Let me see if I'm subbed, and if I'm not, and it's going to be hard to find it because you know how YouTube is. They hate us. I was on her channel the other day. Oh, here we go. Yeah, because she's got the Volcanoes thing. So real quick, shout out to Nicolette. Oh, wrong screen. Here we go. Welcome to Biblically Based 101. And she put out this little presentation here called The History of Volcanoes. I recommend that you guys go watch it. And then she also came over to Paul's chat on his channel, and they had a little discussion about it. And I looked into this stuff because I thought it was really interesting because, Wendy's got the link. Thank you, Wendy. You're the greatest mod ever. I should have done that. Thank you for handling that. What would I do without you? Anyway, so we decided to start looking into volcanoes, which are a very interesting concept. Something I've always thought was super interesting too, especially with the way we're kind of taught growing up. There's so much random stuff we're taught about it. So one of the things that was discussed on, in the group was the idea that the oldest known volcanic eruption that's like recorded in history is the Vesuvius eruption that destroys Pompeii in I think 79 AD. And I'm in no way refuting Nicolette's research. I think she's accurate in that. Google will tell you that there's some depicted on cave paintings and stuff. But that's not really I wouldn't consider a cave painting dated to 7,000 years ago as any kind of, that's not a historical record. However, I was talking to my brother about it. He is currently in I guess the master's program for military history degree. And he was like, well, what about the eruption of Mount Etna? And so I started looking into this a little bit because I wanted to know a little bit about what he was talking about. Apparently, Mount Etna, the first known record, it's a stratovolcano, right? It blows up all throughout history, apparently, just over and over again. It's like a common thing to have it erupt. It's out there on that Greek isle here, Metropolitan. It's on Sicily, I guess. Good to know. So I wanted to look up this because it's just something interesting. So they're saying that the oldest recorded case of eruption of Mount Etna is 396 BC. And the reason that my brother brought it up is he said that there was some army movements that were halted. So apparently it thwarted the Carthaginians in their attempt to advance on Syracuse during the Second Sicilian War. So he said, well, what about Mount Etna? That was 400 BC. And so this is an important thing to remember, and he made a really awesome point, and I respect it because he's kind of more of a skeptic than anybody I know, and I don't mean that in the sense that he doesn't trust the narrative. Of course he doesn't trust the narrative, but he also doesn't trust anything anyone else thinks either. He's ready to tear apart everyone's theory, and I respect that. And he was saying, this is 400 BC, and he said to think about it like this. regular history is kind of abstract, and it generally follows people and events. But military history is the opposite. It's boring. It's like data and like logistics, and in many ways they overlap because historical campaigns and heroic moments and stuff end up in the annals of standard history that you learn in public school and even like college level. But military history is extremely boring and extremely rudimentary, and a lot of times goes completely unnoticed. But there are things that it makes it harder to find this stuff. I never would have thought to look this up, except for that my brother, having studied this conflict in the Sicilian War, remembered that the Carthaginians were unable to advance because of this volcanic eruption that was recorded in 400 BC. So that's significant. Now, it wasn't recorded in 400 BC. Now, that's important that we remember, and BCE is a sign of people that aren't very smart. If you see somebody who uses this, they're not very intelligent. Anyway, so moving on from there, this is a piece that was created by this guy, Diodorus Siculus. This is where the historical reference to this 400 BC volcano and military stuff comes from. And this guy is a 1st century BC ancient Greek historian from Sicily. So that's his home island there, just for reference. He's known for writing the monumental universal history known as Bibliotheca Historica in 40 books, 15 of which survive intact between 60 and 30 BC. The history is arranged in 3 parts. The first covers mythic history up to the destruction of Troy, arranged geographically, describing regions around the world from Egypt, India, and Arabia to Europe. The second covers the time from the Trojan War to the death of Alexander the Great. The third covers the period to about 60 BC. Bibliotheca, meaning library, acknowledges that he was drawing on the work of many other authors. So, again, this is not necessarily to say anything like to refute, but it's just an instance that I found that would refute the idea that the first actual historical account of this volcanic eruption is going to be in the like early 80 years. However, I will also add that since we're considering, those of us in this community who are pretty well versed in this, we understand that many, many pieces of history are greatly modified in their timeline. And because of that, we have this kind of disconnect. So this guy, I mean, they're even saying he's somewhere between 60 and 30 BC. This is a guy who essentially was alive very, very close to the time of Christ. 1st century BC, 1st century AD. I mean, that's a 200-year timeline, and we've been regularly discussing 1,000 years or 700 years of completely fabricated time in history, or distorted or stretched or bothered with history. So I will say, just for the record, that it's highly possible that this guy actually isn't from BC, and that his eruption of Mount Etna was pushed back into history, and that a lot of these conflicts are more recent. And there's just so many ways that we could talk about how, you know, it's more of that, like, as truth seekers, we don't know. We really can't know. And I really like everything that Nicolette said about the concept of these volcanoes and how it relates to Scripture, and the descriptions given in Scripture about what would bring about this fire and destruction, and basically people's eyes melting out of their head and stuff. You know, it's really a cool concept, and I'm really glad for Nicolette for bringing that up. And for me, it's like, I'm not the progenitor of any new ideas or any of this stuff. But I'm like, I guess I'm the conspiratainment. I'm like the class clown. I'm the guy who drums on the desk and the teacher has to tell me to shut up and like throws me out of class all the time. That's who I am. So I do want to take a second, though, to say what I think about volcanoes. And it's not like I'm trying to say my idea is better or anything. It's just I've always had this idea come through my mind when it comes to volcanoes. There was something else. Oh, this is just about the Bibliotheca Historica, which, look at how crazy that thing is. Like, imagine owning this book, like one of these ancient, like, crazy scroll books, like from the, and I mean, look at that thing. Look at the way it's written and stuff. I can't even imagine what it would be like. Anyway, this book is supposed to have existed during, like, I mean, we're talking about within 100 years of the events of Christ. So it's, and of course it's in tattered remains. We barely have any of it left, and so on and so forth. So it's really hard to say about this. But since we're going to switch gears, I want to talk about volcanoes. And I want to talk a little bit about, shoot, all my tabs are out of order. Let's talk first a little bit about how we get to where I'm coming from. You guys know about old world power, right? as members of Little Season Research, new Millennial Kingdom, Little Season people, you guys have probably done some level of research into the idea of old world power. This is a video from John Levi. I recommend you guys check it out. I'll drop it here in the chat. John Levi is one of my favorite channels. He's kind of like the inspiration for my channel in a way, one of my inspirations. But what I love about him is he always says, thank you for being here. And so I adopted that. Those of you guys who are here probably know that. I always say thank you for being here. It's because the first time I ever saw his videos and he said that, I actually felt really welcomed by it. So I wanted to translate that feeling to whoever comes here. So when I say thank you for being here, I really do mean it. Thank you for being here. So this is a chance for you guys to dig into this. He's just the ruminations of John. I think he's a really bright guy, and I think he's got a good heart for the truth, and I think that he will be one of those people who eventually arrives at this millennial kingdom conclusion one day, like all of humanity, when every knee bows and such. But anyway, I'm not trying to get too carried away from it, but check this out, right? So this is an excerpt. We'll just watch a little bit about it. He's showing some pictures and some images, and of course, all of you guys have probably heard that the old world buildings must have been some kind of power generators or some kind of a resonance infrastructure, right? We're talking about the potential that the old world, whether it was the millennial kingdom or not, operated on some kind of different power grid. They didn't have bathrooms, you know. There's all these things that don't really jive with the way we view the world, and part of my theory is that they did possess very advanced technology involving, you know, the manipulation of matter, acoustic principles, properties, somatic stuff, the ability to perhaps transmute matter, alchemy, things like that, okay? And this little section here is called devices, and we'll just play it really quick. All credit to John. We're just doing a little bit of fair use commentary here.
Preserved in India, giving us a good idea of what
here we go. We'll start
some devices that Martin shared. We can see down here his alias, Marticus von Liedtke. And these are devices, most of these in India. In India, everything is always nice and preserved in India, giving us a good idea of what by the time we see in our more developed countries has been stripped down, demolished, or bastardized. Here's another one of these pieces of tech pointing down. This one is awesome. Again, reminding me of the device in Indiana.
Look at these things though, right? Like look at this. These like turbine type images. I'll let it go a little bit longer.
Another one, really intricate. We would be told that this was carved out of stone. Of course, it's ridiculous. And they actually seem like they may have been made of metal. I think sometimes when we see such complexities, we may not even be dealing with a stone or geopolymer, but maybe something else that has been rendered into what seems like... This one is really amazing. Here we have one protruding down, surrounded by what looks like a dozen smaller ones.
Pam Crane says, people who have glorified bodies don't go to the bathroom? Probably not. I think that's a great point, Pam.
And one more of Martin's shares. Here we see some pipe organs, and each pipe organ leading up to a little tower, showing that the towers aren't just towers. All of this having a purpose, and this is really extravagant to have 3 different examples here. But now I think...
Okay, I don't want to get too carried away because I will sit there and watch John Levi all night. And yeah, whoever it was that said he has a bedtime story voice, who was that? Jesse? That's a perfect way to describe it. He's great. He definitely has a way about him. Anyway, so we saw that. We saw a little bit of weird tech, and I know that I wish I had more to present to you guys. But again, I'm not the teacher. I'm just kind of sharing my insight. Now, a lot of those old buildings and stuff look really weird, okay? And I want to look at a couple of pictures of some nuclear reactors, okay? Let's see. We've got some images I have pulled up here. These are kind of some of the reactor cores, but those are kind of mythical images. Let's see if we can find some more accurate. As you can see, we have like these coils, these pilings, these channels where the cooling rods go. We have turbines. They get turned by the steam power of the thing. Anyway, I'm going to kind of make this all make sense in a little bit. And I'll just let you guys kind of see some of these pictures, these weird... I mean, some of this stuff is legit, and some of this stuff is like sci-fi. It's very kind of difficult without actual knowledge to know what we're looking at here. But basically, what we'll do is we'll give a very brief synopsis of the fact that nuclear fission is this process that has to do with applying charges to certain materials, and they enter into these cycles that release a lot of heat in the long run. And that's really what radiation is heat. And there's a lot to discuss about this. I'm not trying to do a nuclear physics lesson because, again, I'm not a teacher. But I just want you guys to think about this concept of the cleanest, most advanced kind of power generation we have has to do with metals and radiation and reactions of chemicals and things. It's a very complicated way of generating power. And, of course, it's also very dangerous, as evidenced by the stories that are told. In fact, I even have a couple of pictures. I don't know where they are. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. So this is the Chernobyl disaster site. This is, as you can see, I mean, I can't make it much bigger than that. It's not a great photo. And then we have also, like, the black and white. Like, just as you can see, this whole building is, and I think it's safe to say, melted. I think this looks evident of high heat, high fire heat. I mean, this almost looks more convincing of a fire than most things, because a lot of things that you see that are melted, you know, they wouldn't melt from flame. Open flame doesn't really do the same as. But anyway, we're talking about nuclear meltdown, okay? And follow me on this, okay? It's all going to make sense in the long run. I have reason to believe that the old world was operating on a certain power grid system, like as if they all were connected. And I think this is all conjecture, remember. So just follow me on this. I think that what happened was the old world had this kind of societal collapse. We all know that it must have happened, this tribulation, so to speak, the world kind of destroyed by fire, fervent heat as things pass away. And I have this feeling like what we believe about nuclear power is complete nonsense, okay? I want to introduce you guys to someone who you guys have probably heard of before, and I mentioned it before, but this is the Crow 777 radio show. I'm going to put it up right here. That's a link to the regular show. And then this is a link to, we're going to start with, it's called Duck and Cover No More, which is I think, the best episode that goes over basically the delusion of nuclear bombs, nuclear threats, nuclear power, okay? And all of that has to do with the origin of the story itself. I've left that in the chat for you guys if you want to document it, log it away for later. It's a great listen. It's only an hour, so I highly recommend it. Crow has been on the cutting edge. I mean, this is a video from 2017, and that's their 53rd one. Okay, Crow is known for recording the lunar wave, and I don't think he's a Christian, and I don't think that everything he says is correct. But I think that this guy has incredible insight, and he and his co-host, Jason Lundgren, have been working on this for a long time. Everything they talk about is very well researched with a ton of information. One of the most entertaining shows ever. If I say, I'm not the teacher, Crow is the teacher, and I really respect the guy, despite, again, there are things I disagree with, but that's part of the journey. So, he has a great discussion about nukes here and about how there is no such thing as the threat. And it's a really awesome thing, and I encourage you guys to check it out. With that being said, I want to tell you that I don't believe that nuclear reactors, nuclear power, is what we think it is. I think that what's happening is that what is taught in a cryptic and compartmentalized way is very much the same kind of technology that was used in the old world to power these cities in the kingdom. Now, I'm just going to leave up this picture of the melted down Chernobyl here just for an example. This is a very small example. Even though we call this big, this is like a kind of archaic and foolish way as they were trying to figure out how to make this thing. And, there's even a place, I might actually go out for a boots on the ground trip because they have this place called the Hansen site, I believe, here in Washington State where I live, which is one of the places where they were manufacturing the radioactive material at the end of the Great War. So, the Second Great War. So with all this being said, as you guys know, the Nazis were the first ones to have not atomic, but it was the German scientists who they brought over who helped unlock access to the atomic bomb and so on and so forth. So the nuke thing is essentially bullshit. They use it to control the world. It's a fear-mongering nonsense, okay? But let's say the old world did have a secret type of power supply for advanced generation of heat and energy. That type of energy that we call radiation, that we believe is like what turns you into the Incredible Hulk. You know, I know how much power the programming has because all throughout my life I've thought of nuclear or radioactive, and I imagine like barrels full of green slime, and that green slime like crackles on the Geiger counter. You know, it's Fallout. You ever played any Fallout games? I love Fallout New Vegas. But you know, you go into a cave and there's like barrels tipped over and it's like too many rides, you're getting too much radiation, you're gonna die. You know, too many rides, you turn into a ghoul. You know, it's part of the lore. It's kind of the way they program us. But hear me out. This is not a lesson in nukes. That's why I offered you guys the Crow 777 little thing for you guys to do sometime and check into that and double check me and see if you think I'm nuts because I don't believe in nukes. Okay, so what were they running? Were they running some kind of advanced ether-powered power generation system? And then think about this, right? You guys understand that energy is never lost. It's only ever transferred in form. So if you had a type of energy that was flowing, I'm sure you guys have had some experience with things shorting out or electrical components failing and catching on fire. And even if you haven't had it personally, I'm sure you could find cases on the internet of electrical fire. It's very common, and it's because you have this controlled energy moving down a certain network of wires that have a certain resistance, and there's a certain voltage, and everything's happening on a mathematical way. Like it's a science. Electricity is a science, and people have gotten really good at it. So they know how to send just enough down the right type of wires, the right type of capacitors and transformers to make sure everything doesn't just explode. However, when those systems get altered or damaged in some way, you find issues like electrical fire. And that's because in many ways, this electricity doesn't have anywhere to go, and this energy transfers into thermal energy. And this is very common in many different ways. There are different ways that energy can be transferred from kinetic to electrical to, in this case, thermal. And so what happens is you have this large volume of energy, but it no longer has a place to go. Imagine this for a moment. An entire unified kingdom across the world. Advanced power grid, ether powered, interconnected on all the ley lines, all of the special spots, all the special places. And I would imagine that over the course of the 1,000 years of development, or even longer, you know, there would be different iterations, just like this Chernobyl system here. This is an iteration of developing this fission technology. And so there are very different designs here than in some of the more modern systems and in some of the Western systems, like in the United Kingdom. I was just watching a video about a disaster they had there where they essentially set their reactor on fire and were pluming radioactive smoke into the atmosphere. And they had to put this filtration system together, and they had to dump heavy oil down the chimney to snuff out the fire. And like, it's just a long story, but it's part of the same thing. People don't know how this stuff works, and when they don't use it right, it burns to the ground and causes a bunch of problems, okay? No one's denying that. There's a lot of heat involved in this stuff. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. What I get interested in is the idea of this place melting down. You know, when a nuclear reactor fails, when it's unable to operate as it was supposed to and the way it was, it will melt down. And that's effectively, you know, it's an effect of this cooling system failing, what they would call a runaway, which is a reaction, energy chain reaction that causes it to propagate and burn itself down. And this is something that's happened before. Remember in, I think it was 2014 maybe, the Fukushima plant. And I remember being told the entire Pacific Ocean would be poisoned to death and I wouldn't be able to go to the beach anymore or I'd get cancer. Well, since then, it's been 10 years and none of those things have happened, which is par for the course for the type of liars who lie about absolutely everything, including this. So what I want to have you guys imagine in your mind for a moment is a city so big that you can't even comprehend it because we just don't live like that anymore. And I can give you examples of this. Like if you drive down the Columbia River Gorge, the Columbia River is an amazing place and the gorge is an amazing place. And for those of you guys who have seen, you know, the melted buildings, the meltology stuff, you can tell that a huge portion of the land along the Columbia River is these old cities that used to exist. And there's even instances of like windows. You can see archways and windows along the thing. It's truly incredible. And this ties into what I was talking about. This Hansen site, which was created in Washington State, uses the Columbia River as a cooling supply for this reactor. So hear me out. You guys know how the old world is all about canals and rivers, and like we look at stuff like the Erie Canal in the United States and we say, we couldn't build that with carts and horses. So what's it for? Are we an advanced civilization that just likes water going everywhere? And don't get me wrong, I understand the principles of water carrying a charge, living water, you know. But what if there's more to it than that? What if these canals were part of an elaborate cooling system for an advanced etheric power grid? You feel me? Now imagine that kingdom, in all of its order and all of its righteousness and all of its management and engineering, was all of a sudden not under good management, not under good, you know. I mean, look at, imagine what would happen to one of these places if you didn't maintain it. It would melt down. Okay, so now try to imagine nuclear power plants that are so big you can't even wrap your head around it. A city so big it's like the size of a mountain. Okay? I've always had this feeling like what's going on at the what's going on at the bottom of these volcanoes is, in my mind, it's the elephant's foot. In my mind, there used to be a very huge, very intense reactor there. And this is complete conjecture, right? I told you. Just imagine in your mind for a moment that at the bottom of a volcano is a nuclear reactor core. You know what I'm saying? Imagine it used to be a city with an advanced infrastructure of cooling systems and canals, and then management moved out and nobody was watching over these things. Just a theory. It could be, in my mind, possible that the reason why these things are melted is because we have the whole city melted down, and then we have this burning reactor core that's still burning. And that's why we get these occasional lava flows. Again, complete conjecture. And mine has no evidence either. Mine's just like, it's how I would write my anime. It's like, the mountains of the ancient city that still burn from the engines of the old world, still churning deep beneath the earth, converting ether energy into thermal energy and just melting the rock. Yeah, I know it's crazy. But I think it's kind of a cool idea, don't you think? No? Guy's out of his mind. I'm just saying, I think it's possible. I think what we think about nuclear power today is not quite correct. And I think that it's possible that these volcanoes are potentially these like melted ancient reactors. Anyway, that's about it. I know there was like a long, that's kind of anticlimactic, but it's just, you know, what I think. Some food for thought, you know what I mean? I'll pull up chat and check in with you guys. The old people who never left Chernobyl. Oh, okay. That guy who used to do demonstrations in schools and eat the radioactive material. I've seen that guy. Is that the guy that was putting the radiation? Oh, yeah. This is definitely... As it says, I listened to a guy that, I can't remember the name, said that prior to a certain point, there were no safety regulations for messing with the pool inside of a nuclear plant. No suits, nothing. He never got cancer either. Well, and I think that one of the best arguments about this is given by Crow in his cast, because he talks about Nagasaki and Fukushima, and he said, at no point in history were there not people, plants, and animals in those cities, and to this day, and to no end. And I know that even regular history says that within 2 weeks they had the trains running again in Hiroshima. So you have people who were just there in the bomb zone, just fine, didn't do anything to them, and nor did it do anything to the plants or the animals that were there. And it's not to say that like that's it. You could just eat nuclear dust or whatever, just stand there and turn the microwave on and put your head inside or whatever. You know, I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying that I think it's possible that we don't fully understand how this stuff works, and I'm sure that there are ways that you could, microwave yourself and kill yourself and damage your cellular structure. I think that's totally possible, but I think that there's a lot of it that they want us in the dark about it because they don't want us capturing control of free energy. That's really what it comes down to. They always say, if anyone could discover nuclear fusion, it would be unlimited energy and we'd be free, and it's like, I don't think there's really that much, you know what I mean? I think there's not that much to it, is what I mean. I think when it comes to most of the truth of the world, it's actually simpler, and the conspiracy theories created in his story are actually more complicated than the reality. It was like, I think it was Vinny who was saying it, or maybe it was Hijack, or one of the guys was saying on Paul's show earlier today that we get all of these stories told to us from a young age, and they have answers for everything, so it seems legitimate. Every time somebody comes up with a question, they have some way that they explain it away. Give me a sec. I'm dying up in here. Anyway, that's part of the problem, right? Because they do have an answer for everything, whether the answer is any good or not. Pam Crane says Yellowstone is a cauldron volcano. Interesting. Adrian says portals. Yes. Wendy says, that CERN shape is in the movie Event Horizon, and that machine brought worse fears to reality. They called it hell. Pepe says, then the Fire Nation attacks. Yeah, I think that there's definitely some portal stuff. I think there's going to be portals playing a role in the end game here. Like as we start to get to final revelation, as they start to reveal, you know how we were talking about at the beginning, the whole soft disclosure, and they start telling us stuff. I think they're going to start telling us stuff about some advanced technologies, and I don't know whether or not it has to do with my theory that like there's pressure from outside the circle that they have to, or whether it's just coming up on time for their like mass depopulation agenda or whatever they're working on for 2025. I don't know. But I will say there hasn't been a dull day since this whole thing started. I'm not going to lie. Do you guys feel that? Who else feels like 2025 has been going crazy? I feel like it's already been nuts every single day, and then there's all these other things. Let me tell you, we'll take a little break from the heavy stuff, and let me share you guys a little story. So you guys probably know, whoop, wrong button. You guys probably know that I have been like in love with this SL 500 car for a long time. Let's actually go look at the one in question. I love it when it's real. Oh, shoot. Oh, you know what? It's not too late. Because I could just sign in real quick. Cool. Hi, Con. Okay, so there's two cars saved. These are the two I'm looking at right now. I'll just accept your foul cookies. So this belongs to John. I've talked to this guy more than once. This is owned by a private sale guy, and he's really cool, but he's not giving me his car at any. It's not happening. It's too much money, first of all. I'm a broke bitch. But here's the one I was looking at, right? Okay, this is another one. There's a couple of reasons why I'm big on this, although it's all the way across the country. It's just not happening, guys, so don't worry. Oh, no, okay. I was wondering why I was blurring out the phone number. Like, is that how it's going to be? Anyway, just look at how pretty it is. 70,000 miles, 2001, black on black. It has a little wear and tear here and stuff, but that can all be fixed, you know. But they want 13 grand for it, and then I got to figure out how to ship it. If you see right here, it's got this moonroof. That's such a rare part for this car to get the pano roof. Anyway, I almost signed up a freaking loan for this thing because I'm just so obsessed. So this is my opportunity for you guys to be like, we're not here for material things. And I had to really kind of think it over this morning. I'll just admit it that I was like, I want this so bad. But it's one of those things. It's like, I'll work towards it and I'll get it. I'll just keep saving money. And if the Lord wills it, I'll get one day. But I was like trying to sign up to buy this thing. I was really considering it, just like taking a loan out to get it, bankrupting myself to get a hold of it. And, you know, I'm still on the fence. It's like when you're a young guy, it's like you're going to grow up and be like, man, I should have just taken the risk. I should have just bought that car sight unseen across the country, shipped it over here and started cranking away. Dream fulfilled. Imagine this thing where it says con man on the license plate. Like, that day is going to come, dude. Con man right there. That's what I've been going through. Not that that's anything to brag about or complain about. It's actually funny. You know, I break away from seriousness every once in a while. I'm not a perfect person, okay? And like Sunday service is a Sunday thing. I try to be, you know, a Christ-focused man as much as I can, but I'm also, you know, I'm not perfect. And whenever I break away from things, I find people getting mad at me. Like, I posted my recent food review from Guys Gotta Eat, and somebody commented on there. In fact, let's just go look at it because it's funny. Somebody commented, and they were like, what did they say? They were mad that I was doing something about food. Like, they were, I'll be able to find it. I pinned the comment because I think it was that one. It was the most recent one. It was the Applebee's. Yeah, let's go. This guy was mad. Eric4646 says, really? Ugh. This is such a waste of time. In reference to my Guys Gotta Eat Applebee's video. Anyway, I guess he was mad. I don't know. He's like, this is such a waste of time. And I said to him, I was like, he replied, oh, great. I love it when there's new drama. This guy thinks eating food is a waste of time. That was me laughing. I was like, tell me then, what should I really be doing? Perhaps I can learn to light feed. And now what does he say? Oh, it's a rant. I don't think eating food is a waste of time. I think making a YouTube video about eating food is a waste of time. I mean, what do you really hope to accomplish by making this particular video? Will this bring people to Christ? I fail to see how. Will making a video about where you eat food be truly uplifting and meaningful to people? I hope so. But part of me doubts that doing this sort of video helps anyone but you and your YouTube channel. Okay, I see how it is. I support your message about Christ and what's going on, but these Guys Gotta Eat videos are certainly not necessary for spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. Don't play into the system of what gets likes and views. Just be true to what you started this channel for. I don't have any issue with you, brother, only trying to point out this type of content is more of what we Christians don't really need. Well, I respect your opinion, Eric, but I will tell you that, like, I'm not a Christian. I'm a Christ supremacist. I'm an agent of the kingdom of God. I don't do religious bullshit. So whatever your definition is, it's probably wrong. I'm sorry to tell you. And the whole idea that I can't make videos enjoying food and laughing and having a good time makes me feel like you don't have enough joy in your heart and you need to get checked. That's it. Anyway, I didn't expect it to take that kind of a turn. But, you know, I noticed that people get mad at how much fun I have. You guys ever notice that? Like, I'm laughing and having a good time, and they're like, why are you laughing like a little girl? Stop having fun. And what I'm realizing is that the world is so miserable. They're mad to see you happy. My whole life, I've always kind of wondered, like, why everyone's so, like, crushed, and it's because they're all hopeless. They're mad. He's over here telling me how to be more Christian. He's, like, mad and, like, shitting on my parade. Like, what kind of an idiot? I'm sorry, dude. It's like, I'm the bad witness. I record hundreds of hours of teachings and post them on the internet to minimal people because of the value of what it is. But that's not good enough for him because I post videos eating Applebee's that I paid for with my own money. Like, you know, people like this are impossible to please. You know what I mean? Like, I hope you watch this, Eric. I hope you, like, realize that you're being a jackass and you're like, you know what? You're right, dude. Enjoy eating food. We need more Christians who eat food on YouTube. We need more people who claim Christ and fill all the slots of influence in the world. You should be glad I'm eating food. You should hope I replace every other food guy. You should hope I become the biggest food guy on earth so that then I can say, thank Jesus for this delicious food. Wouldn't it be great if we all had world peace and Applebee's? Amen. Yeah, Wendy says people have forgotten to have fun. I totally agree. It's like, I don't understand why would you be so upset? I totally know where he's coming from because we always feel like people aren't doing enough with what they have. But, like, dude, I don't have anything. You know, it's like, don't be mad at me. I fulfill my obligations. If I was a big YouTuber, I would totally believe that. I'd totally be like, dude, I make 10 grand a month now. I've been used to being poor my whole life. Like, I could do more, but I don't. Don't clip that and think I'm saying I make 10 grand because I don't make anything. Patreon.com/thecultofcon. Sign up to, you know, whatever, dude. It's funny. I think we all need to lighten up a little bit. We need to be able to do both. That's why the channel does what it does, because we have our moments of serious and sincerity, but this is real life. Not everything about life is, you know, serious or like about digging into conspiracy or about, like, you know, teaching. School starts and then school ends. Work starts and then work ends. You got to have time to rest. You got to have time to be you. And it doesn't mean that we should glorify wretchedness or live in sin or think, well, you know, I'm a Christian on Sunday, but on Monday, I'm a bastard. You know, I try really hard not to be that way. But I'm not a perfect dude. Like, I came from a very kind of a rough background. I grew up kind of poor. I don't have a formal education. I didn't go to, you know, compare me. When you think about me, imagine people who are like convicts from prison and like people who like grew up in bad situations. I am like the least of them. I'm the least among them. These other people have had way harder lives and bigger struggles than me. I'm not trying to say, you know, feel bad for me or anything. I'm just saying, like, don't compare me to people who, like, had a good upbringing, like, went to college, and then you're like, what's wrong with you? It's like, dude, I'm coming from the bottom up. I'm on the way up. Focus on the trajectory, not the location. We should all be looking up. Life is a journey, not a destination. We should all be pushing forward in the right direction, not looking back at where we used to be and say, well, that's fine by me. So it's like I could be a guy who was in prison like last year and like, look at how far I've come. So like if you judge me for making food videos, it's like, dude, like you should have seen what I was doing last year. Nothing of value. So especially since like I do commit quite a bit of energy to Sunday service. Like I do work pretty hard. Like I haven't been on Eric's teachings channel yet either, so I haven't seen his Bible study videos, and maybe he has them and I'm just oblivious. But you know, I feel like reacting to comments is important because I feel like people need to know that like this is real. You know, we're joking about SHILLS today, and I like make my triangle eyeball and everything, and it's a big funny joke and everything, but it's like we gotta remember, like the only thing we have left is authenticity, people. There's so much fake crap out there, fake nukes, fake planes crashing into towers, fake things they want to inject into you. That'll probably do it right. The verbiage matters. A lot of fake stuff going on, okay? And I'm just saying it's okay to be real and then figure out how to make real be a little bit better, how to make real sound good, how to make real like clean up a little bit. I'm working on it, you know. I'm trying not to be a potty mouth. I said that's something I'm working on. It's like, where do you draw the line? Is bastard a curse word? Is that like a shame upon the church? You know, like, I don't know. MK Ryan's always got a great joke, dude. He says, I quite enjoy watching Khan essentially. Oh, that's the wrong one. Wrong screen. One sec. He says, I quite enjoy Khan essentially, watching Khan essentially embalm himself for our viewing pleasure. Davey here. Welcome, Davey. Good to see you. Davey says, buy that Benz and then you can make some videos about taking other drivers to Gapplebee's. Like, we're back. We're eating good in the neighborhood. Applebee's and Gapplebee's. I think that Benz would take some people to Gapplebee's. It's like 300 horsepower, naturally aspirated V8. It's totally beautiful, man. It will happen. It's like we set ourselves goals in life. That's a medium goal. My first goal was to just start making videos, and we did that. Now we've made it this far. We've come so close. We're pushing that 1,000 subscriber mark. If we hit 1,000 subs and the 4,000 watch time hours, we can become like an actual partner, like AdSense. I can make like 75 cents a week or something. We can start breaking the barrier. The main thing I'm hopeful for in terms of all that, and this will just make Eric mad because like, how dare you grow your channel? But you know, if I can get to partner status, YouTube will start recommending my videos to people. And I don't know, I can't speak for myself, or maybe I can, but it's like, I like myself, okay? And you should like yourself too. I'm not saying that to be like self-aggrandized. I'm actually one of the more like shy people in real life. But when you get rid of your inhibitions, and it's like you're alone in your room except for with your friends or whatever, you know, I feel much better. I don't have to convince my boss I'm a good employee. I don't have to convince everyone I'm normal and that they shouldn't fire me. Because those are the things that make it hard for you to be yourself, like the pressure of the society. But when I come here, hang out with you guys, it's all me, it's all real. I like that. It makes me happy, and I want to maintain that. And if I can get the channel to grow, I can do it more. It can be my main thing, and then I don't have to be like taking out the trash and like trying to talk on the phone and try to contribute, you know. I could actually become someone who contributes to this, and I could see myself taking this a lot farther. But that, of course, requires you guys. And I mean, you guys are kind of the reason for the season, so to speak, when it comes to this thing. Because otherwise, I'd be talking into the void. I say that from time to time, but you know, there's something valuable about having real interactions with real people. And our world is so full of NPCs now that it makes sense. You know, you want to be a main character in this crazy time. I think that's part of what brings you guys all here. It's kind of like, No offense to anyone who's still asleep, but it's like, that's what I mean. I talked about it in like the very first episode of the Main Character podcast. It's like, what makes you a main character is that you're aware, you're awake. Doesn't mean you have to know everything, you know? There was a time we exited our mother's womb and entered the world completely a clean slate, and they tried to cover us up with a bunch of bad ideas and lies, and we're over those lies, we're over those bad ideas, we're on to the next new big thing. This is like the cutting edge of it, and I don't just mean me, I mean this community, you guys. Millennial Kingdom, Little Season, all that stuff. We are crazy close. 2025 is a crazy year. I'm like freaking out with how excited I am. But I think setting goals is important, right? That car, growing the channel, looking ahead to whatever the Lord has planned for our lives. I'm pretty stoked about it. What are we, 8 days in, and it's been nothing but crazy the whole time? I guess that car story wasn't that great, but I called the guy. I was like ready to fill out a credit application, and I had to be like, slow down. There's probably one of these in California. I'm praying for that. I'm praying that one pops up close by so I can go and look at it and I can drive it home. It's more realistic that way. I'm not even worried about taking on small payments to get it. You know, you got to treat yourself to something in life, you know. You know, I don't have a ton of big interests, you know. I like guns and ammo a little bit. Those are spendy, you know. But a lot of guys, you know, my brother and I were talking about it the other day. It's like, we looked up the cost of raising children, like the monthly and the annual and I guess the down payment on like a nursery and a bunch of stuff. And, you know, raising a kid to 18 costs an enormous amount of money, but just even like monthly. Like I got friends paying $400 or $500 a month just in kid stuff. And I was like, dude, that's no big deal. I can get that Benz for half of that or less. So it's all about, you know, exchange in life. You know, I have a lot of friends who like went to college and they're doing really good for themselves in their job, but they have a bunch of student loan debt. So it's not like there's a one-size-fits-all journey for everybody. And that's kind of a part of also the unfortunate thing about Eric working himself up and getting mad about my video when he could have just laughed and had fun like we all do. We're all just having a good time. I would sit there and eat Applebee's with you, Eric. I'll buy your dinner, brother. But just don't get mad at me for having a good time about it, okay? What we need more than anything is like that attitude of invitation and welcoming. We need it. You know, when I was younger, I didn't know that wasn't really popular. I didn't know that like showing up ready to go and like having fun and being happy to be there, it's like an energy people reject now because they don't have hope. They don't believe that you can still have fun and like dance and have joy and feel the energy in your bones. You know what I mean? I refuse to be crushed. I'm 30, but I'm not 30 in the sense that like my heart is joyful. I've had my share of hardships, but we're having fun. We're having a good time. The ship is burning down and we're going to be singing hilarious sea shanties on the way down, guys. Like, ain't nothing can do us any harm, guys. God goes before you. Nothing can come against you. And at the end of the day, right, this is just temporary. This is a temporal beard. It's going to expire, man. It's already turning white. I'm like 30. People are going to think I'm like 50 years old in 2 years. At least I could have a cool old car. You know? Chat, you guys are the best. I like that I've got this now, this new, like, where you guys get to be part of it so that also you guys can see your imprint on the legacy forever. You know, everything you guys say that helps contribute to this community, it's embodied in the chat. And generally the replays show up, you know, after a couple of days on there, but it's not the same as being right up on the screen like that. Pretty cool. I felt like I owed you guys some chat time because it was like, I don't know, last week I was ranting so much about drones and everything. I feel like we didn't hang out much. So this is kind of cool. I'm enjoying it while it lasts. I'm not saying that these days are going to come to an end, but you know how it is. We're living the dream. Make the best of it right now because you look back and it'll never be the same, you know? Doctor Who says, Michael Card has good music if you can't find decent Christian music. Thanks for the plug, man. I'll definitely look into that. You know, I actually did want to take a second to say that even though these Christian artists tend to be shills, the music isn't always bad. There's this one song called All My Hope Is in Jesus, I think is what it's called. It's like Crowder and some other guy, I can't remember his name. Torrin Wells or something like that. I love that song. I belt that song out at work when people aren't around so that they can't hear me. You know? It's like, all my hope is in Jesus. That's such a good song. I'm not even joking. It really is. It's so good. It's not something that can be translated without me yelling extremely loud. I'd probably be off key or something too. So Adrienne says, Con, you were great on Paul's show today. Thank you, Adrienne. I heard the section and it literally sounded like a robot on dial-up. Like, it was like the worst quality connection I've ever heard. But I think the point was made. I really want to restate, and I doubt Vinny watches my show or anything, but I just want to reiterate that I was not like, I always have this feeling like I come out and then I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mean to like step on your toes, because I do not think that my random thing about stuff being round or whatever is meant to be refuting, you know, these guys saying that it's square. I don't know. I just thought to myself, there could be 4 corners on a pie if you cut it into 4, you know. And I thought maybe it could still be round. And the only reason I think that is because the moon's round. And I like those plasma moon maps. It's my dang background. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at this thing. I don't remember what I spent on it, and I don't feel bad for giving money to Vibes. Like, it's a great channel. He had one that was twice this big. It was a 2x2 meter, and it was the new selenographic with the snow, like the white one. Oh, it was so beautiful, but I couldn't afford it. It was like $150, and I didn't have a job. And of course now it's been a year or two, and they're all limited edition stuff. Everything that Sturgios or Vibes puts out, it's like is limited run. Like there was 20 of those. There's like 10 of these in the world or something. Like we take it for granted sometimes. Like I wish I had the big one, but it's like it is pretty amazing to have a little piece of history like that. Something I bought that the money went to Sturgios or to Vibes, you know. Anyway, the moon is round and it looks like a map of the Earth. I can't help but think the Earth is probably pretty round. That's just me though. I think that I will find my way over and hopefully see some of the stuff, because I think Vinny was even saying he was going to make a presentation about it because people just aren't talking about square Earth very much, or you know, rectangular realm, and I'm totally interested. I want to know about Terra Incognita. That's something that my dad and I have been talking about, and there are some videos by a channel called Italian PNC, I think is what it's called, Italian PC or something, and I'm going to look into it and we'll talk a little bit about it, and look into the idea of like worlds beyond our world. For some reason it's really bothersome to me, and I just don't know how to clarify that. Like there's somewhere in there where I hit one of these like spiritual lines where it's like no. It's not, I don't know, okay? I don't actually know. I just feel like discernment kicks in, and I start feeling like Terra Incognita, something's not quite right about it, and we'll look into it and see what we maybe will find about it. But like I saw a post on Instagram yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, from Leaving Babylon. You guys know Madeline. And it was, she was basically showing Greenland and Mars. And there's been all this talk about, you know, Elon occupy Mars and Trump, you know, talking about taking over Greenland, and like it's starting to look really serious. And then obviously the picture of Mars and the picture of Greenland and the coast is like the same. Anyway, take it up with Leaving Babylon. She knows the scoop. I told her she's got to make a video about it, because it's like, even if it's just a short video, like 20 minutes, whatever, or just rant about it for half an hour like I do. You know, just bring it to the community, because I think it's a really awesome insight into the idea that like here we are potentially looking at surrounding the camp of the saints in this final battle for the end of the earth, and here they are, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, encroaching the nations closer to the center, the proverbial center, you know, the magnetic north, which is likely where the New Jerusalem is. And they're like, well, the only way you can surround them is if you own the land or you're on the land right next to them. So it's really spooky to me. Like, I know it doesn't really mean anything, but just the fact that she came up with that, or like found a way to articulate that into an Instagram post with a couple photos, it was like mind blown by the idea. But it's totally, since we're this close, right, little season, and Lord only knows how much more time we have left, what with all this gravitic soft disclosure from all these like former military operators who now are famous YouTubers just randomly. Like, what are the odds, man? I was joking with Wendy the other day. I was like, you guys are going to be so mad next year. Speaking about this year, it was like a couple weeks ago. And I was like, you guys are going to know I'm a plant. I'm a government plant, because the quality of what's coming in the future, like my channel will just explode and I'll just be so famous and just so influential. People, what do you do for a living? I'm an influencer. You know. But that's it. I was just joking, but it's like I've got some stuff coming down the pike that's like really cool, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. 2025 is already off to a cool, crazy start, and yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it being weird. I'm okay with it being kind of unsure. Because, you know, for the longest time, we thought we knew and we didn't know, and it was like walking a rope bridge to nowhere. And now the ropes are cut and there is no bridge and we're free falling, but it's like, you know, at least there's not an imaginary, at least there's not like some preset fictional destination that we're going as we spin through the cosmos at 666,000 miles an hour, you know. All of that had me going in some really weird directions, you know. It's funny, it was kind of like what Crow was talking about, you know, that show Big Bang Theory. And of course that's, you know what it is. That's a reinforcement of Bad Ideas sitcom show teaching you a bunch of bad ideas. But anyway, you know, watching that show, there's a lot of references to this Marie Curie, you know. She's the name and face of radiation, you know, and radiation is on the period, or sorry, not radiation, but well, she came up with the concept and also the terminology for like radioactive. But she's well known for her discovery of the element radium, which is the periodic table Ra, the sun god Ra. It's all about, you know, alchemical mysteries and transmuting the world through rituals and actions, and it's just a crazy story. I definitely recommend, you know, I'm talking about that Crow 777 thing from earlier, like just reiterating how cool it is. I listened to it at work today, and so I can never get enough of the cutting edge of research. Like when we're looking at these people, that's one of the things. Like I'm trying to do my best to just be along for the ride, because again, I'm the guy who theorizes that volcanoes are like melted advanced kingdom cities with like reactors, and they're like still going off, and like that. It to me, it sounds cool. Like it sounds sci-fi. That's probably not what it is. I think Nicolette's volcano theory is far more realistic, that, you know, the Lord opened up vents to the pit to release gases and fire to destroy the world when the tribulation came. I mean, that's just so perfect. The ocean's corrupted, the plant life's destroyed, the people, the animals are destroyed. And even Gunnar Heinsohn talking about, you know, that tribulation of the 3 separate events that are really just one, and like 90% of the world's population destroyed in that event. That's crazy. And that 90% erasure is the perfect place to begin teaching all kinds of weird, nonsensical ideas, many of which emerged in the 14th and 15th century, such as heliocentric, you know, globe Earth nonsense, you know. And of course, we can never really finish the debate on that. That's why it was nice to have a chance to talk about the final experiment today with the guys, because, you know, there is no final experiment. All of this stuff is a matter of faith, and I don't mean it like a matter of faith in God. Of course it does play into that, but I just mean like you got to decide who you're going to believe, because nobody really knows. None of us are like flying down into a volcano today or ever that we know of to determine the actual source of what's going on. Like, yeah, maybe it is a melted city, maybe it is a hell portal or something. Like, we just don't know. I will say though, it is pretty interesting, and maybe this is an opportunity to like introduce you guys to something else that I think is pretty funny, and it's something from a long time ago. Give me just a sec here. I'm gonna pull it up. Oh, I don't have it on here, do I? Well, that's a shame. Okay, food for thought. For those of you guys who are members of the Cult of Khan on Patreon, we do have a free tier. So if you want to join and just get plugged in over there, I welcome you to go over there. Patreon.com/thecultofkhan. I will be adding a video to Patreon this weekend. There's just like some memory lane from my old channel, The Outpost. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I was going to send this out to you guys anyway, because I think it's like a nostalgic thing to share with you guys. But it's a video that I made with my friends that's called We Found a Lost Cave. And it's from a few years ago. And it's myself, my buddy Ryan. He's called Simple Life. You'll see him sometimes in the chat. And then our other buddy Austin, who's like, he's like a dad and doing his own thing now with the kids, but God bless him. He's a good man. He's a man of God. Anyway, so we headed out and we found these caves, because like living up here in the Washington state, you get, you know, Mount St. Helens, which you guys may know is well, at least I guess they say it's an active volcano, although it hasn't like really tripped anybody out that it's going to blow up anytime recently. It did, however, back in the 80s have like a mega explosion. I'm sure all of you guys have heard of it. I remember as a little kid, the McDonald's in our town had black and white portrait photos of the volcano erupting. You know, the big plume of cloud ash that blew off from the side and everything. Mount St. Helens eruption is kind of like one of those things you learn a lot about growing up in the Northwest, because it's like one of those big impactful events in our region. And then, of course, after that eruption, there was all these lava tubes that got created, so to speak. That's what they call them. The lava tubes were created, obviously, by lava channels flowing underground. And this is where it gets interesting. This is more where it's all so creepy, and I don't know what to think. You guys know the Pacific Northwest is well known for its purported cryptid sightings. You know, this region of the world is a hot spot. I'm actually really glad I live here. It's beautiful here, and it's also really mysterious. We get all the McMinnville UFO sightings. We get all the Olympic National Forest and the disappearances and the Bigfoot and everything. It's super cool. But with that being said, this place, this cave that we found, is part of a system of caves called the Ape Caves. And I, do with that what you will, but they're calling them Ape Caves. And, I get it. It's like, oh, Sasquatch, he's like the ape man. But it's like, why do we so nonchalantly call our national landmarks and tourist locations, Ape Caves? Like, I thought those were lava tubes. Why don't we call them like magma caves or something? Why is it the Ape Caves, And, of course, you guys probably saw our episode a few weeks back when we talked about like cryptids and stuff and whatever we called it, like strange beasts. And I have a photo. The thumbnail of that photo is like me up at the market up there at the casino, and they have a giant realistic Sasquatch thing that I took a selfie with. And it's like this part of the country has a very weird kind of an acceptance and an obsession with cryptids that it's just normal. Like, Bigfoot's our friend. He's like our neighbor up here. Well, I'm not having it. I know that guy is a Nephilim, and we're not friends, and I'm going to get you with something. If I ever encounter a Nephilim, I'm taking it out. You hear about people that they're like so scared or they don't know what to do. I'm not going to have a moment of hesitation when I see one of those guys. If I'm out here in Olympic National Forest and a Nephilim shows up, that is it. Oh, you know what? This is actually great that we're talking about this, because apparently a couple of guys like just died the other day because they tried to go hunting for Bigfoots. And I'm not glorifying their death. I'm saying, isn't this funny the way they do the media, where it's like, if they want to discourage you from, oh yeah, here we go. Check it out, guys.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 11:52 on the East Coast and 8:52 on the West Coast. I do want to take you out to a developing story as we are getting information and new information coming in from the Associated Press. 2 Oregon men found dead in a Washington state forest after they failed to return from a trip to look for Sasquatch. That is according to authorities in that area. Now, the 59-year-old and 37-year-old appear to have died from exposure. That is according to the Skamania County Sheriff's Office. They posted these photos here on Facebook. The weather and the men's lack of preparedness led the office to draw that conclusion. Sasquatch is a folklore beast thought by some to roam the forest, specifically in the Pacific Northwest. That is where these folks were going. Now, the 2 men were found in a heavily wooded area of the Gifford National Forest, which is about 150 miles northeast of Portland.
Okay, so just to let you guys know, Gifford is called Gifford Pinchot, and that's literally where my brother and I go. We go shooting over there all the time. So, just for the record, I mean, these guys weren't even that far from where we're at, like once a week maybe. So I just think it's interesting, right? 2 guys go reportedly searching for Sasquatch and freaking die out there. And I know it's just like what we've been talking about, right? Ever since people started getting wise to this stuff, like, oh, what's the shape of the earth, or what's going on in the woods? People started getting wise to this stuff, and they started putting out, controlled opposition. And I think that we've come to a point now where, because of the work of people like, do we still have him pulled up? Yeah, we do. Mr. Ballin, who is a former operator, now has 10 million subs, whatever. 10 million, no big deal. Only 425 videos, too. That's pretty wild, because I've got over 100 videos. So I think that in the next 300 videos, I will gain 9.67993 or whatever. Quite a few subs waiting. So let's go. Anyway, with guys like this filling everyone's head with ideas about cryptids and stuff, as it becomes more mainstream and less kind of controlled, at the end of the day, all of conspiracy researchers have been sort of measured by the mainstream attacking you and thinking you're crazy. So you had to kind of be really vet your idea before you present it, because at the bar on this weekend, when you try to tell everyone that dinosaurs never existed or whatever, they're going to call you an idiot, and like, so you have to be really careful how you present things. Well, today's day and age says everyone on TikTok is a researcher now. Everyone on TikTok has been humiliated and bullied by their peers because they thought something that then everyone else decided was true and you never got credit for. The point is that this happens, and so then people are like, we're gonna go hunt Sasquatch, and let's be honest, guys, they can't let that happen. You can't have people like me 150 miles away from Bigfoot going out in the woods and blasting that sumbitch and dragging him back to town. And it's not because I am going to go do it, but it's because they got people out here that might succeed. Think about it. It's like, you only have to get lucky once. Sasquatch has to get lucky every single day. Every guy is out there mowing around Elmer Fudd in the woods, blasting at every hairy thing they can see. Somebody's going to get one. And then, you know, if somebody gets one and they bring one of those out, it's the cat's out of the bag, dude. It's Gears of War. They're not even going to we're not even going to get a chance. It's going to be like, oh, no, it's time, pull the plug. And so that's, I think, why this happens. I don't know if those guys really did die in the woods. Maybe they did. But the reason why it's news is because they don't want you going out there. They don't want you thinking you're going to go out there and start hunting for Bigfoot and trying to bring that guy home. Yeah, it's just the way it is. MK Ryan. Yeah, you know, I appreciate your opinion too, man. I mean, I can tell you that I've never really spent a ton of time watching Jay, but I do like his explorations. And I think that he has a good heart about what he's doing. Hijacker, what's crazy about that is Hijacker is really insightful. He's the kind of guy I'd want to go spend a weekend in the woods, in a cabin with the guy, sitting around the campfire and just listen to his stories and hear about everything he has to say. You know, somewhere out in Olympic National Forest, we could throw rocks back at Bigfoot while he's throwing rocks at the cabin. You know what I'm saying? Hijacker is the kind of guy that I'd really like to sit down in a quiet place with a campfire, maybe a cup of cocoa, and just listen to what he has to say. It's tough when you're trying to engage in a conversation because he's got so much information to unpack. You know, he's been in the game for a long time. I'm sure he knows things that would totally blow my mind that just went right past my head. That's one thing is you know, you can never really be the master of everything. I've always been kind of a jack of all trades. I know a little bit about everything, but I'm the master of nothing. So it's always good to hear people who have a lot of insight. So I really can appreciate the Hijacker and Jay too. You know, Dr. Who's saying he has the problem of too much content. He's passionate and close to the truth. You have to watch and take the parts that your heart feels are correct. I respect him for the dedication to seeking. 100%, dude. That's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a niche for everybody. Everyone kind of has their place in all this. And it's I just pride myself on being the guy who tries to have a good time here, because the first 10 years of Conspiracy World was so miserable, and you were such a pariah, and everyone hated you for thinking things weren't the way they are. And I'm sure some of you guys have felt that yourself in the last 5 years or more. Everyone's kind of, like I said, in a different place in this journey, but I'm sure during the whole the 19 viral event that people probably like saw legitimate research that made sense, presented it, and then got shut down and were like, uh-oh, I'm dealing with crazy people. That was tough. It was tough. It was a hard realization for a lot of people to realize that the people they know and care about don't really feel the same way about them because they don't value the things you think. Like, I had people tell me all kinds of weird religious beliefs, and I respected them and believed in that they had found to their own best ability what they thought was true, and I respected it, never judged them. But in my life, I've experienced people who like told them stuff that you were like, well, I think it could be this. And they're like, you and your weird religions, your weird beliefs. It's like, wow, I thought we were friends. M.K. Ryan says, every time he says, go ahead, I want to smack him through my headphones. Stephen Morris says, never been to Patreon. Well, you know, it's just kind of a way that you could support creators, because like the internet doesn't pay like it used to, I can tell you. When I was back in 2012, I like made money on AdSense back in the day, like some money, like $60, and I didn't even do anything. So it's probably nothing like that now, but that's the cool thing about these other platforms like Patreon or Subscribestar or whatever it is. Like, it gives you the opportunity to directly support creators that you believe in what they're doing or that you like their content. You know, at the end of the day, I forget sometimes there's this guy I watch a lot, Jack Morgan. This is work. Like, and he'll say it, he'll own it. He says, if you don't respect your value, nobody else will. So I have to remember that, like, this is work, even though I really enjoy it. Like, this is a work being done to give a space for people who may not have one. Like, who you hanging out with on Wednesday night? I'm not hanging out with anybody. This is our chance to chill. That's something. I don't necessarily consider it a job at all. It's no chore to me at all. That's why I do it for free. I love you guys. But we got to remember that people are working. And so that's kind of the cool thing about the world we live in now, is that people can decide for themselves what they want to support. Like, there's no paywall. I guess you could make one if you wanted to, but I respect a lot of creators for just putting it out there and saying whatever you think it's worth. I think if we ran our economy that way, we'd be a much better country, because there's products that, like, I'd pay $3 for that, but I wouldn't pay $5. And, like, they want $5, It's like everything that's wrong with the country right now is that everybody thinks they deserve more than what they get. And everybody thinks everyone else should pay more for the stuff they're trying to let go of. If we had some decency in our way, we would be fine. If corporations thought, well, I just want to be the best provider of cars. I know if I make enough to pay for my house and my vacations and stuff, I'm covered. Like, a CEO who makes $1 million, that's totally fine. But they want to make 20 or 50, and it's at the expense of everybody else. That ain't right. It's no wonder we have so many problems. Jeffrey says, it's like Jesus said, they rejected John the Baptist for not eating and drinking, and they rejected Jesus for eating and drinking. Yep, hypocrisy. Adrian says, I'm with Doctor Who on Jay. Sometimes I get overloaded with content. Just for the record, everybody, that's Jay Dreamers. I could plug the channel, but I don't need to. He's quite large. He's like over 100K. And I recommend you guys check it out. He has great regular content. He's consistent. He talks about all kinds of edgy stuff, and his perspective is unique. Different from mine, but definitely, it's a good time. And they stay busy over there. Not quite the tiny little tight-knit community that we have, but it's cool. There's a lot of overlap, I see, when I go in there, I see a lot of you guys there in the chat with him, and it's always good to pop in and hang out. Doctor Who's a regular over there, so. Sean Thompson said, I heard a lot of big feet got killed in that. Sean Thompson and I went to school together in high school. He's like the local legend from my town of, like, guitar playing and stuff from back in the day. Cool guy. Yeah, he said, so, like, when Mount St. Helens blew up, yeah, I'm sure a lot of big feet got destroyed. Bigfoots? Sasquatches? Yeah, I would imagine they were devastated by that. Oh boy, this chat is wild. I didn't realize how far behind I was. Doctor Who says, here, let's back it up a little bit. He says, if you're new to Jay or not seen any, start with the Plasma Apocalypse playlist or pick a movie review you've watched the movie of. Okay. Good advice. Ezra says, not that I'm a prophet, far from it, but this is also relevant. Luke 4:24, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, no prophet is welcome in his hometown. It shows the self-evaluation maintenance thing. People who consider you a peer are far less likely to be convinced by something you discover or know. 100%, yeah. In fact, I heard about this while I was listening about the nuclear disaster in Britain that happened in like 1951 or something like that. I can't remember. I'll pull it up. It's in my MC feeds. I could share it later. We'll talk about it another time. But yeah, they in the United Kingdom didn't have the same kind of rules and regulations we had in the US about the border of where the testing facility ends before it comes in contact with other civilian property. And in England, they were like right up against farmland and stuff. So they were like, oh no, there's this disaster. Everyone has to kind of evacuate. We can't take any of this milk or these eggs from the region where this has happened. And what they noticed was there was an ever-increasing panic farther away from ground zero because it was the people who were there who could see with their own eyes that it wasn't all that crazy. Just like what you're saying, Ezra, like people you lived with or grew up with who kind of knew you and they like think, well, whatever interactions we had and or whatever it is, there's no way you could do anything prolific or be anyone or know anything because you're just from the same shit town I'm from, and you know what I mean? Like, it's funny too because like Sean's in here and they're like both from that shit town. It's just funny. Joyful One says, good advice, Dr. Huey has a certain type of discernment. Dr. Who says, I love that Jay recognizes Jesus as the light of the world and ignores the human story of Jesus. It's fresh and gives you a nice perspective. See, that's really important too, because like Christianity sucks. Like, I'll be the first to say it. Like, I'm a big Jesus guy, but Christianity sucks. And like, how can you have that conversation on the surface, Especially with a Christian person, because they're going to think you're attacking them. So it's like, I love Jesus. And I love the teachings of Jesus more than anything. Those red words, I'd be like, if I was going to get myself tattooed all over, it'd just be like red words all over me. I think that'd be cool, especially if they were red. But anyway, I'm probably good on tattoos. I got a couple, and that's enough for now. Sean Thompson says, I saw Wendigo at Battleground Lake once. Would not even be surprised, man. That place has a vibe about it. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I've always felt like Battleground Lake was just a little bit weird. Like, there's a Loch Ness monster living in it. It's supposedly, like, super deep. Like, it's like a volcanic crater or something. Very weird. Wendy says, there's my 37 of the day. I don't know where it came from, but unless I said something. Jeffrey says, I haven't been allowed to escape my hometown. I've been trapped here my whole life, but I'm a stranger. Yeah, I know that feeling, Jeffrey. It was like I had to get out of Battleground for that exact reason, because I failed to launch and I needed to get out and start over. So it's sometimes nice. I mean, some people, they grow up in their hometown, they have connections, they have friends there, and they kind of live that whole life, start a business, own a business in town, and they get that kind of American dream, and good for them. I will admit I'm envious of that simple life, but at the same time, I'm super glad that everything turned out the way it did. I'm glad that, not because I don't wish I had kids or a family, I think that'd be cool, but it's like my trajectory right now is that black car. Like, it's like I can't complain about that. My trajectory is 1,000 subs. We're totally going to break that this year. And then who knows? It's exponential from there. Once I become a partner at the end of this month or whatever, I'm going to apply. I guess that's the homework for you guys, is go through my channel, watch some of my older videos, watch these live streams, look for things that'll get me in trouble, and leave a comment with a timestamp and say, listen, if I was a YouTube moderator, I would say, I think this is not appropriate. I think you're going to get in trouble. And just, advise me what you guys think needs to get cleaned up, because I got to apply for this partner program, and they're going to be scouring me for like a month, it said. They're going to be looking for everything they can to say no. Or maybe they'll see the opportunity and say, well, that guy, I mean, he'll be the next Asmongold. He'll be the next Penguin Z0. That guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't really mean that, but you know what I'm saying. Folklore beast. Jeffrey says, I've been learning Spanish, and if the world doesn't end, I hope to go somewhere far, far away someday. Jesse Hahn says, I'll bet they used the Sasquatch mating call and couldn't run fast enough. About the guys that died in the woods. Yeah, they said they died of exposure, but what were they exposed to? Sasquatch's libido. That's just terrible. He's also not a believer, but a good storyteller. Ballin'. Yep. I've never heard him claim Christ or anything. I think that's kind of like a litmus test. I mean, obviously that's not the deciding factor. You can ask somebody what they believe, but I think that people who believe in Jesus will say so. They want you to know. Yeah, hey, I'm a Jesus guy. I don't like church, but I'm a Jesus guy. I think you should be okay to say that. You shouldn't be afraid to say that. And if you are, it's just probably because you got to make sure you say some I like to preface it by being I don't like Christianity, but I like Jesus. I like to preface it that way because I think people need to know that there's a difference between the teacher and all these bad behaved students that stole the schoolhouse while he was gone, while he wasn't around doing anything. Ezra says, Let's Read is a pretty decent-sized true story reading channel, and I've talked to him in his stream a couple times. He says it's like a cap that was put on his views and subs after a certain point. Yeah, I've experienced that too. I kind of have that now. It kind of plateaus you, and I think that's how you end up shadow banned. I only gain subscribers whenever I go on Paul's channel because he has a much larger expanse of viewers, and then I come on and talk, and people are like, oh, yeah, that seems like... And so they'll come and subscribe, and the community grows just a little bit, and that's okay. I'd rather get 2 or 3 good ones than 2,000 randos. So, I mean, I'm grateful for this community. You guys always have something to say. You always have something to add. You help keep me on track. I always try to get ADD brained on you and go crazy, but it's good. It's just good to have you guys. It's different for every channel. Every story is a little bit different. I don't really care about actually getting big. I just want to make sure we stay true to what we're doing here. Stay true to you. You know what I mean? Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting Sassy. I hear they're kind of blurry. Yeah, right? You know what? Here's my theory on that. I think that the Sasquatches themselves may either be some kind of a dimensional being, or there are physical Sasquatches and they are accompanied by spiritual beings. And that's, I'm much more lean towards the latter, because to me it seems like they would be accompanied by other demonic entities in spirit form, and they can do stuff to you. They can create illusions, and they can create sounds, and they can create, they're an illusionary, light creature from another dimension. So when they project weird or like invisible or, in different ways, they can affect your senses. And that's a very common thing in cryptid sightings, is like not just fear, but weird emotional, weird hair standing up on the back of your neck that you can't explain type feelings. And that's I think where we're getting into this. Pepe Sylvia says they phase in and out of our realm. I think that's totally possible too. There could be portals. There could be like naturally occurring vortexes that we don't understand. And we don't see the world as it should. We have a very thin spectrum of wavelengths that we can hear and see with our eyes and ears as they are. So there's all kinds of stuff going on that's invisible. Like for all we know, there's like a weird freak in my room right now. Like, I don't know. Be gone. Anyway, hope it's not a yellow rat suit alien like looking in the back window or something. He knows how to take over a show. Hence the name. Oh, hijacker. Connor, you did an entire episode dressed as a tiny hat. Yeah, I did, didn't I? I'm so far behind on chat. You guys are like way past this. I'm going to try to catch up. All right, we'll try to catch up before we're out. We're like the last minute here. Fun fact, Mar-a-Lago means from sea to lake. It's interesting, too, how that property stretches, and it's like the secret winter White House bunker. Maybe a Mar-a-Lago talk would be a good thing to talk about on the channel, like one of the little subsections, maybe. Jorva 1 says, believers have problems accepting the rate of another person's journey. I agree. Dr. Who says, I don't know why y'all are looking for Sasquatch in America. Come up to Canada. They're all over Saskatchewan. Heck yeah. I could use a Canada trip, to be honest. The energy's different over there. Maybe depends on the place you're going, but like BC, that's like Pacific Northwest on steroids. Like everything that I think I know about Olympic National Forest and like Mount Hood, Mount St. Helens. You go up to BC and it's like, whoa, it's like you're in Alaska all of a sudden. Adrian, Canada is the new America. Well, it's the 51st state, isn't it? Welcome to the United States, Doctor Who. You have now been force-pressed into the U.S. military for service for the war for Greater Israel. Imagine that. It becomes the 51st state, and then we just draft all the Canadians. That's so par for the course for the United States. Our new country, we get Greenland and Canada, and then we draft all of their kids. That's just horrible. That's so par for the course for these guys. These tiny hats, I guess you could say. Conman Gold. Oh, Conman Gold. There we go. Heck yeah. Asmongold and Conman Gold. Conjecture Man. Conman Conjecture Man. That'd be a good one. Risking their cognitive dissonance, sometimes it opens thoughts about the misgivings they've always had about church. Amen. Doctor Who says, Con, before you conclude, I put it to you that Constantine turned the princes and powers into the saints to make Catholicism Christian. Well, I guess we'll have to do a little bit of deep dive research into that. One of the things that I think we'll find is that, and this is a common thing that we find in like this kind of like who came first, the chicken or the egg about Christianity and like saints and pagan gods and stuff. I totally know where you're coming from. It is kind of sus city. But at the same time, it's kind of like those guys are kind of like, I mean, how do you explain it? The world is not physical in reality. This is kind of like just a portion of the world. It's like the finite part in the infinite. And like any kind of spiritual entity probably knows who you are as a spiritual being. Like your identity as a person is not your flesh and your name here. You have a spiritual true identity. And Jesus knew you before the foundations of the earth, before you were formed in your mother's womb. And I would not be surprised to say that there aren't spirits from the other world that know who you are too. And it just stands to reason that if you know who the saints are before they even come into the world, you could easily pose yourself however you want to. You know, one of the common things we see in the world religions is that it's like, well, these pagan gods or these different religions have a Messiah that was born on December 24th, born of a virgin, and they have all these like kind of like reverberative kind of almost clone beliefs as Christianity. And a lot of times you see people kind of say, well, that is what proves Christianity is not true, because these other documents have a similar story, or this much more ancient belief has a similar story to tell. And my argument would be that the reason all of these stories are so similar, the reason why there's like figures that kind of reverberate in the narratives of history, is because there really are these people that are important. There really are main characters in the story of humanity, and people will tell you whatever they think about them. You know, there's people who would tell you I'm like a great guy, a man of God. There's people who would tell you I'm a bastard and a backstabber and whatever else. There's people who would say I like give you the shirt off my back, and there's people who say I'm running the biggest grift the internet's ever seen. I guess time will tell. You can judge them by their fruit, they say. But yeah, when it comes to that, that's something we'll look into for sure, Doctor Who, because it's like at the end of the day, you have to be able to rationalize what it is that you believe in. There's no point in saying, well, I believe in all this and not knowing why. You know, you do yourself a disservice in that way. Keep waiting for JD to pop in and subvert the stream. Yeah, what happened to JD? Did we lose him? Is there like a David curse where everybody named David dies? We keep having people named David dying. I hope you're still with us. Jew David is a good friend. He's a good guy. I hope he comes back. Ezra says, I listened to a Sasquatch account where a guy claimed it telepathically communicated with him. It told him they are living in a dimension very close to our own and sometimes step through to us. Would make a lot of sense if so. I've definitely heard about that. Like, yeah, the, what do they call it? The telepathic communication, but I think somebody made a great point, and that they believe that the world used to communicate in telepathy anyway, and that we didn't actually get spoken language until the Tower of Babel. And I read some stuff about that. It's another deep dive we'll have to go into. I bet Brian from Demon Erasers has a story on that. He seems to have like info on everything these days. I like that guy. He's cool. We're almost caught up, guys. Almost caught up to chat. I just want to catch up with you guys before we shut it down for the night. I know we're a little over the limit, but that's okay. It's my life. I can do what I want. Although I do need to get something to eat, because you guys know guys gotta eat. It's getting pretty late. No, we're talking Washington to California. Welcome to Canada Con. Oh, okay. So it's like the new, what do they call that? I know what you're talking about. Greater Idaho. That's something else. That's like a right-wing resurgence. Like, we want gun rights. We're leaving. You can take your capital city and shove it. Shane says we got the new Canadian cavalry. They actually ride horses. That's pretty wild. Mom says, I mean, Trudeau did resign. Isn't it all funny how it's all shaping up? Has there ever been a bigger shill than the son of Fidel Castro, Justin Trudeau? That's the way. One for the record books. When we're looking at the shills of history, I hope he's in there. In case you don't know, just look up a picture of Justin Trudeau and a picture of Fidel Castro. And what's even more is not just that he's the spitting image of his dad. It's the fact that his mom, of all people, knew Fidel Castro and was seen around him in pictures right around the era that Trudeau was born. That is his mom and dad. That's the real deal right there. D-Ball says, good point, Con. Are we reliving anything and they try to change stuff? I don't know. Wendy says, if you want to compete, honestly, I'm your gal. I can promise not to sugarcoat too. Wendy says, Jew David's in the UK. I should know that. I've had conversations with him where he like sent me audio clips of him saying stuff, and I know he has an accent. Of course he's in the UK. It's like 4 a.m. over there right now. Or it's 2 a.m. It's always 2 a.m. when we're getting close down here, right? Because it's like they're 8 hours up from here and it's 8 p.m. So now that's 4 a.m. Ooh, boy. Yikes. Well, it looks like everybody's having their little chant, little shout out to Canada. Canaan, Adar. Canaan, the land of Canaan. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, we're living in the land of the plumed serpent, America, or whatever you want to call it. Bananada, that's a good one. Hey guys, we're getting close to the end. We're past the end. We're way over the limit, but it's been really good, guys. It's always a great time to come out here and join you guys. For all of you guys who are here, this has been level 25 of the Main Character Podcast. made possible by the Cult of Con. Of course, I am Con Man, and thank you for being here. We will be back next week with yet another episode of The Main Character Live, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific. And don't forget to join us on Sunday at 8:30 a.m. for the Sunday service, and meet us on Monday and Friday this week for Bulge Khalifa and another episode of Guys Gotta Eat. It's been great, guys. Thank you for being here. We'll see y'all in the next one.
It's a con and I'm your man. You know I tell it like it is. I hold the secrets in my hands. Reflection and introspection is my profession. I'm recklessly disrespecting what you expect and investing in my discretion, teaching the lessons, impressions to keep you guessing what I do next, man.
Now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison. He will go forth to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the final battle, an army whose number is as the sand of the sea.
It's amazing the affirmations that come my way when I fake it until I make it. The truth is waiting, complacent organizations. They say I'm racist, they hate and they making payments on my vacation. I'm the man, I'm the king, I'm rejecting what you think. Rearranging your mentality, got some Kool-Aid you can drink. It's a scam, it's a plan, it's a con and I'm your man. You know I tell it like it is, I hold the secrets in my hands. Reflection and introspection is my profession. I'm recklessly disrespecting what you expect and investing in my discretion, teaching the lesson.